Material costs for electrical heavy-ups can vary depending on location and supplier. In Colorado, typical wholesale material costs without markup for a single-family heavy-up are as follows. Firstly, a 200 amp panel typically costs between $120 and $180. Secondly, a meter socket ranges from $60 to $100. Thirdly, the ground electrode conductor, or GEC, costs approximately $50 to $80. Fourthly, a weatherhead is about $20 to $30. Fifthly, the mast riser is priced between $50 and $100. Sixthly, grounding supplies generally cost $20 to $40. Seventhly, conduit and fittings range from $50 to $100. Eighthly, wire and neutrals typically cost $100 to $150. Now, let's look at the material costs for a duplex heavy-up. Firstly, two 200 amp panels would cost between $240 and $360. Secondly, 2 meter sockets would range from $120 to $200. Thirdly, 2 ground electrode conductors would be about $100 to $160. Fourthly, 2 weatherheads would cost $40 to $60. Fifthly, 2 mast risers would be priced between $100 and $200. Sixthly, grounding supplies would generally cost $40 to $80. Seventhly, conduit and fittings would range from $100 to $200. Eighthly, wire and neutrals would typically cost $200 to $300. These material costs depend on specific materials used and the installation's complexity. Remember to consider labor costs when calculating the total heavy-up cost. For example, factors affecting wire costs include the gauge and type of wire needed based on ampacity requirements per the National Electrical Code, or NEC. The distance of the run also contributes to the overall cost of wire, as longer runs require more material. The type of conduit, whether it's PVC, EMT, or rigid metal, affects the price. The diameter of the conduit and the number of fittings such as couplings and connectors also influence the final cost. Considering the panel, a 200 amp panel is a common choice for heavy-ups, but the specific brand and features can impact the price. Panels with more circuit breaker spaces or advanced surge protection may be more expensive. When it comes to weatherheads, the size and material of the weatherhead need to match the conduit and service entrance cable. Some weatherheads also include additional features like built-in arresters. The meter socket must be compatible with the local utility requirement. Some utilities have specific requirements for meter sockets, which can affect the cost. The ground electrode conductor, or GEC, size is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors as per NEC Table 250.66. The type of grounding electrode, such as ground rods or grounding plates, also influences the cost. The mast riser's height and diameter must comply with local codes and utility requirements. The material of the mast riser, whether it's galvanized steel or aluminum, also affects the price. For grounding supplies, the type and number of grounding clamps, connectors, and bonding jumpers are needed to ensure a safe and effective grounding system. Local electrical codes and utility regulations can also impact material costs. Different jurisdictions may have different requirements for service upgrades, which can affect the materials needed. For duplex heavy-ups, since there are 2 of many items, the cost roughly doubles, but there might be some savings on shared components or bulk purchases. Labor costs should be estimated based on the time required to complete the job, the number of electricians needed, and their hourly rates. Factors such as permit fees, inspection fees, and other overhead costs also need to be included in the overall project cost.